Hi, so good afternoon. Today we continue with our series in financial investments, classes in financial investment, and today we'll be looking at how to go about investing in some of the financial investments or financial instruments we've been talking about. So that's class 5, how to go about investing in all these financial instruments we've been talking about over our last classes. So first, fixed income. Like we already said, when we look at fixed income, we are talking about government bonds, we are talking about treasury bills, we are talking about savings bonds, corporate bonds. So those are fixed income. So how do you go about investing in them? Okay. So if you want to go about investing in federal government bond, you could do that through commercial banks, through your stockbrokers, bonds generally, not just federal government bonds generally, or fixed income investments. If you want to do treasury bills, you could buy through your bank, whether secondary or primary markets. Your bank could aid you in doing that. Stockbrokers also aid you in doing that. Popular stockbrokers, ARM Securities, Meristem Securities, Stanbic IBTC Asset Management Company. So those companies can help you. Aside that, you have fintechs. Fintechs can also help you in investing in fixed income investments. Fintechs like Bamboo, Trove, there's Chaka, there's Yocha. They can all help you in doing that. So yeah, fixed income investment, remember, we're talking about bonds, we're talking about treasury bills, we're talking about corporate bonds, so not just government bonds, your Euro bonds, and all those companies can actually help you in investing in them, just in case you're interested in that. Corporate bonds and money markets. So if you want to invest in corporate bonds and money markets, you'd have heard of the market FMDQ. Fixed income instruments are usually listed there, but your stockbrokers and your asset management company and also your commercial banks can actually aid you in the purchase of these bonds and other money market as well as fixed income securities. So if you desire to buy a corporate bond, I think I'm trying to remember. I know Access did one a while ago. Trying to remember a recent one that was done by a non-company. None seems to come to my head. Yeah, but there have been a lot of corporate bond. Dangote GT2 corporate bond. I think I saw one of recent. I'm trying to recall the company. Dangote did do one of recent and all. So corporate bonds too, you could get access to. Usually your stockbrokers and your asset management company would usually send you like an email telling you that this is available and you could buy. You could buy it. Yeah. For US Treasury bills, US corporate bonds, and ETF and money markets. Yeah. It's also accessible through their brokers and their investment platforms. For fixed markets instrument for US, you can also use fintech like Bamboo if you're in Nigeria, or you can use global stockbrokers like Schwab's, Interactive Broker. TriceTrade is one available to Nigeria. It's been a while I use my TriceTrade account, I don't know, so you might want to check TriceTrade. Trading 212 is another stockbroker, but it's not accessible to Nigeria anymore. But TriceTrade, yeah. For those of you that are abroad, eToro, Interactive Broker, Schwab's, Fidelity Brokers, those offer you opportunities to buy fixed income instruments, ETFs, and money markets at a fee for the US, not Nigeria. Yeah. So those are how you buy them. They are bonds and ETF. So like we said, if you are investing from Nigeria and you want to buy corporate bonds, RiseVest, I didn't mention that one. Aside Trove, Bamboo, Chaka, there's also RiseVest. The difference between RiseVest And bamboo is the bamboo, you could invest in stocks yourself, do most of this investment yourself, whereas RiseVest have like a package investment, so they package it for you. If you want fixed income, they already packaged it, and they offer it to you for you to buy. So they give you managed funds. It's not a fund that you manage yourself. So if you were buying like stock in bamboo, you have to be a bit educated. You have to know a bit of stocks, a bit about stock to start buying stock in bamboo. But if you go to equities, mutual funds, like what's just a bit of what RiseVest is doing. Some people do REITs. They also offer REITs, real estate investment trust fund. So they offer it, but they already give you package, as opposed to you buying individual stocks or mutual fund or ETFs on the stock market and managing it yourself, where you determine your entry price, you determine your exit price, you buy, you sell yourself. Most of this firm also give you this package as a form of mutual funds for a Nigerian, and then you can access it and then you can buy it. But you have little control of the different instruments that they are buying. If it's a mutual fund, if it's let me say, if it's a bond fund, they just tell you they are into bonds. You do not determine the particular bond to buy. If it is fixed income too, it could be like, you do not determine per se. If it's equity too, they just say it's an equity fund. I think Bamboo offers something where they buy stocks for you, they manage it for you. They help you pick your stocks and they manage it for you. So you can access that as a Nigerian via Trove, RiseVest, Bamboo. Haven't heard much about Chaka of recent. I think there's this one they call Invest Nigeria now. I don't use the app. Nothing against it. It's just there are a lot of apps right now. So I've been using Bamboo for almost 5 years. So and Trove Bamboo for almost 5 years, and they've been doing well. So I don't change what works. Okay, I guess. Comparison between Nigeria and US stocks. So you could do a bit of Nigerian stocks like Perceive. Most foreign investors and also Nigerian investors in the Nigerian equity space actually do what we call cyclical investing, because Nigerian stock market is driven by dividend investors, and that most Nigerian companies pay majorly to dividends, end-year dividends and interim dividends. So towards when these dividends are going to be paid, you see an increase in the prices of stocks, especially those ones that are dividends aristocrats that pay really high dividends. So because of that, people like us, we take advantage of that. That is what we use that's the way I play Nigerian stocks. So at the beginning of the year, when we know that end-year results are coming out, so end-year dividends are coming out, there is a rally. A lot of us buy that time. So we buy because we see a lot of upside. So by December, we get into the market in anticipation for dividend release and results released in March and April. So we buy stocks that we know that has precedence and over a while has been paying good dividends, have high dividend yield. Not necessarily just for the dividends, but we are not the only one buying. We know that over the years, a lot of people buy because of it. So because of that, the prices would usually tick up for most of this stock at this time. So at those times, we buy it. We buy December, or like now, like what happened last week, like this week, that you see a drop in the price. You see GT like 78. If you enter like 78 towards March, who knows, it could hit back to its 52-week high of almost 120. And then, 78, 120, you can see the return. Then plus like almost a 10% dividend yield that you might get with GT and Zenith. So you could 78, maybe like even if it's 100, 7,800, you are doing more than 20-30% in less than 6 months. So things like that is how some people play Nigerian stock, and over the years it usually happens that way. It follows that trend, so it is a much more simpler market. And also in Nigerian stock market, because there's a cap, drop does not go below 10, above 10, increase does not go above 10 in a day for a stock. Is also a safety net, so that unlike the US stock market that we saw metal drop 17%, 13% in one day after result release. And then you can see, I think the same thing happened for Uber. Yeah, is it? Yeah, that Uber or yeah, I think it's Uber. I think it's Uber. After the release of their results, Uber also dropped that way. So because of that, you could see your investment drop by almost 20% or even 50% in a day. So unlike that's in the US stock market, but there's that safety net in the Nigerian stock market. So typically Nigerian stock market is a bit safer. It's predictable to a good extent, and if you've been following it and you're not greedy, because that's the thing, people will say, but we've lost money. But the thing is, how did you play it? Some people are greedy in the sense that you could buy a Zenith, you could buy a GT that would probably give you 30% return in a year. It's almost sure. If you look at their results over the last 5 years, I'm sure you'll be saying that if you had entered at a particular price, you'll probably be getting 25 to 30% returns in the year. But some people will be looking at, we can do 50, we can do 100. Then you go and look at risky stocks, and it's not like you can't get 50 and 100, but if you're not very good at the timing, because most of the stocks are traders' favorites. So if you do not understand what they are doing and they enter and you follow them and enter, and you are not quick enough to exit when they are exiting, you lose your money. And the bad thing of this kind of stocks is that most of those stocks never come back, because maybe there's one thing that is driving people to enter. They just enter, they just buy, and they are out. And then you are there waiting for it to come. Unlike GT, even if you enter at a price and it falls, it was 78 a day ago. The next day I wanted to buy. Like I was like, let me before I would get my money to buy, GT was already back to 89, 88, 89. And I also pissed because 78 for GT is a big deal. Saying that I bought my first one at 100 naira, and when I saw 78, I was dancing. This is a good averaging price. But before I could even get my money, it was already back to 89 naira. That means that's increased by almost 10 naira almost. You get. So that's why we always advise people, guys, there are some stocks that the fugas, the strong banks in Nigeria, if you buy those stocks, it's the same. There are also stocks like that in the US stock market. Your Mark 7, Meta, Amazon, Google. Yeah. Which one again? Meta, Amazon, Google, Amazon. Meta is there, Amazon is there, Google is there. I'm trying to remember. Tesla should be there. Nvidia is also there right now. I would get the Apple. God, can you imagine? I would forget. Apple is there, and yeah, there are the top 7 companies in the US stock market. Microsoft, yeah, that's the 7th one. Microsoft. So these are the top 7 companies in the US stock market. They make more than 50% of the S&P 500. So they are a deciding factor on where the S&P 500 tilts towards. The value of the S&P 500 at the end of the year, at the end of a day, is determined by the prices of these individual stocks. And before you enter the S&P 500, you have to meet certain criteria, not just market cap, but in terms of earnings results too. So buying a stock that is in the S&P 500, they've already done the fundamental analysis for you, and to a great point, most of those stocks have sound fundamental results in terms of earnings, cash flow, So they've already done some of the research for you, or at least they have already set some criteria to ensure that if you enter here, you have met this criteria that makes you a fundamentally sound stocks. Okay, and so assessing equities in Nigeria, Yocha, Chaka, Trove, Bamboo, You know, that's for US stocks and also for Nigerian stock. Then Meristem, ARM, Stanbic IBTC, those asset management and security companies that also offer you equities, Nigerian equities. So you could buy Nigerian equities, also Nigerian ETFs from them. Yeah. You could also use, if you want to use a US, I don't think you could use Choice Trade. I think Choice Trade still accepts Nigerians, so maybe you want to try. The problem with using abroad brokers is funding. You know, transferring money is quite expensive, so funding in dollars is not so easy. When we used to use Google Pay, at least that was nice, but I don't know, maybe the federal government or the CBN, now that they are easing up on a lot of things, would allow us go back to using our cards on Google Pay to do some of all these things. Fixed income in Canada, government and corporate bonds, GICs, you know. I think you can also get that from your brokers. You say you can buy via Questrade, TD Direct Investing, RBC Direct, or Wealthsimple. I think I've heard a couple of people I know in Canada talk about Wealthsimple. I think the problem with most of the stocks that Nigerians that are there always tell me is that most of these companies already pre-choose stocks for them, and it's not like they have to pick themselves. So if you want to buy the S&P, they help you on buying. It's not like we can buy the S&P at any price here in Nigeria. So, but my research shows that you can actually buy from, and I think a couple of people have also told me you can buy from Wealthsimple Trade in Canada. Yeah. I think you can also buy, normally a broker would also provide you with not just stocks but also some fixed income assets, because they run both together. Okay, so in conclusion, fixed income, like I was saying about the risk level of Nigerian stock and US stock, Nigerian stock market is much more safer. It's easier to learn. For a starter, it's easier to learn, and if you buy a good company like your Fugaz, even if you buy high, you can average down, and as you average down, you won't wait long before you get an upside. You need to know that a large portion, or 90% of the Nigerian stock market capitalization is actually determined by maybe like 10 companies. So it's very easy. If you invest in those 10 companies, you know that the chances of you going down, even if the possibility exists, is quite low. So those are one of the tricks that you use. Unfortunately, stocks like this are not very volatile, and so they are not traders' favorite, because people are looking for 100%. And maybe these stocks can give you 30, 40, 50 on a good day. This year though, some people have seen, I saw 80% return on my money at the beginning of the year. So yeah, there are people that could have seen even 100% return on their money, you know. And this also, but I think this is like an exceptional or different year. We want to see how the market goes. Remember, Nigeria is recovering from FX fluctuation and devaluation. We are seeing appreciation now that is causing growth in the markets. So that could be one of the reasons why we saw. And then there's a lot of recapitalization, banking sectors. There's a lot of rights issues too. Last year recapitalization and rights issues were done by banks. This year we saw more rights issues and also IPOs from other sectors, especially FMCGs. So because of that, we are seeing valuation increase. I used to know the Nigerian stock market to be around 48 trillion. Now we are almost at 100 trillion. That's like double the amount. As much as there's still upside, but yeah, You know, a lot of people, a lot of foreign investors left the markets with the FX depreciation and devaluation, and hopefully they are coming back. We see them coming back, but the CGT, that's capital gain tax, is still something a lot of people, a lot of them are probably trying to get or seek clarification on. Aside that, Trump, Trump wanting to invade Nigeria and save us all. That is also something a lot of people are hesitant about. The thing with stock market is, or even the fixed income market is, financial instrument investing market is very responsive to news. That's both a good thing and a bad thing, because when you know something is going to happen, it makes predictability easy, and it makes you a bit more prepared for such things. So you can already have a go-to plan. So should this thing happen, you know, you already see it coming. So it's a good thing. Nigerian market usually did not used to respond to news. That was why a lot of people were like, market that doesn't respond to news, how do you know what moves it? You know, that was why I was saying that the market usually moves with dividends. It was basically dividends. So you see early months of the years, you see a lot of thick up interim dividends, which is comes out around August, September, November, October. You also see a lot of thick up in prices. So people target those times to buy those stocks. You know, we are dealing with fairly high net worth people that 30% is a big deal for them. So, and 30% should be a big deal for everybody, really, because I am of the opinion that I have studied and looked and seen that consistently steady small term returns oftentimes add up in the long term to high volatile risky returns. Why? Because you could invest in 10 risky venture, maybe 2 will succeed, but you could invest in 10 medium to low to medium risk venture, and maybe like 9 of it could actually be positive. And then you see that at the end of the day it nets off. I think so. Data shows it, but I think so. So except especially for people that work and you have steady source of income and you're just investing to scale up or compound faster, you know, it might be wise for you to take a long-term view. Look at steady, consistent growth. You just need to look at GT Bank charts, look at Zenith Bank charts. When you have a tangentially sloping, an upward tangential slope graph, it's telling you that every year the stock is increasing. It's the same thing you see in Apple. It's the same thing you see in Microsoft. It's the same thing you see, Amazon, Alphabet. You see them. They're always ticking up. You know, some people will tell you that NVIDIA has returned maybe on 1,000% in the last 5 years. But 5 years is a short time frame. Tell me about NVIDIA's return in the last 20 years. You're doing long term now. You're not, even if you remove your money and collect your profits, you're not going to spend it. You're still going to enter the market soon. So that money, even if NVIDIA gives you 1,000 and you put it on somewhere else, or you return it back to NVIDIA, and then NVIDIA stops returning 1,000 this thing, that's 1,000 before you know ticks off, and in 20 years you're seeing an average of maybe 10-15%, which is the same with what the S&P will give you, you know. And people will say, what do you mean? But look at Amazon had the same story, you know. It's people easily forget, but Amazon had the same 1,000 return at one time, but now fuck, it's difficult for Amazon to even get there, you know. But when you now look at Amazon over the world, yeah, it's a great stock, but are you saying 1,000 averagely over 20 years, over 30 years? No. Tesla too, over since when it came in, it has also been doing great. You know, most of the stocks have been splitted over and over. The same thing with Alphabet. You know, when NVIDIA is increasing so much because it's coming out with AI and the chips. So it's a new sector. And so, yeah, it's like when Apple came with the iPhones and then their services, you know, those tick up stocks new invention, new innovation. But after a while, when the calm comes, after the storm and the calm comes, you now get steady returns. That's the maturity level of the stocks. Maybe some people will say, I will go into another stock that is also at its growth period. But hey, that's there's a risky one. Out of every 10 shiny stock, maybe you see probably like 1 or 2 that actually comes out. There were many EVs, Rio, Neo. There are a lot of EVs. Of all of them, it was just Tesla, Elon Musk's Tesla, that is at least well known. I read of Waymo now, but when you look at returns, Elon Musk's Tesla was actually the bomb. And this was because of Elon, more of Elon than even just the company itself. Elon is a magnetic character, and I bought that stock for Elon actually. I was betting on Elon when I bought that stock. His confidence was so infectious that I bought it, and yeah, it was a good one, And when I entered, it was when they wanted to take it into S&P 500. That was when I know that okay, this stock is big. So it wasn't just all Elon. When we saw that even the S&P is taking this stock serious, valuation and capitalization and then earnings is doing well. But there actually was a lot of EVs. You hear Elon more, but you hear Tesla more, but there were a lot of EVs. But it was only Tesla. Also during the COVID time, there were a lot of IPOs, Peloton, CrowdStrike, and that was the securities companies, the cybersecurity company, CrowdStrike. There are a lot of them, but there was Block or Square, but when you look at them 5 years down the line, how many of them are actually doing just as great as, CrowdStrike maybe just okay. Peloton, I don't even hear much about it. I am hearing more about Eli Lilly now, but because of the tech companies and all. But sometimes you don't need to take the risks, because even if once it works, over the long term, which is what you are trading for, because for a lot of us retail investors, we are still in our 30s, 40s. You're not dying yet, so you will still continue investing for life. So you probably wanted to be more cautious and have a steady source of income and grow steadily, and sustainable growth, organic sustainable growth that lasts you not just for now, but also when you need it as you age and your working capacity reduces, where you need your money working more for you. So hey, so that's it. Where you can get stocks and also other fixed income investments and other financial instruments investments that you might want to buy. So have a nice day. I'm passionate about investing. Some people wonder why. It's because I've seen it work for Standard, and I see a lot of people work so hard, and I think this is a good way to ease off the pressure. Not stop working, but hey, ease off the pressure. You can work, your money can work. It makes you go faster. 30% isn't just a joke. So 30% of 1 million is 300,000. That's a big money. So you could do that with Nigerian equity. The NGX group returns this year is like 100%. I saw from the one I bought that I sold, I'm still saying 100%. The NGX, the market itself has done like 48%. That's 38 to 48%, and then around 40%. That's not bad. And these are passive investments. So have a nice weekend till we see you again. Bye. Bye-bye.
Get started on your financial literacy journey today with EM Services Limited. Contact us on Instagram @EM Services Limited.